That makes more sense. Yeah, I actually was always going to come back. I think even that day, I talked to Coach Link about it, and it was pretty much kind of like, well, you can come back and do whatever you want, and we'll of course hold a spot for you. And so I pretty much knew right then, okay, well, that's what I want to do. I've always wanted to get the senior season in, and so now 3 years later from it, hopefully I can do it. You could categorize it as depressing. Like, it makes you feel it's very hard. That's why I said when people do quit, like, I get it. But for me, what I told myself was that's weakness, because it is hard. It is very hard. Every single day you get up, everybody goes to practice, everybody's making plays, getting their production. You're never on any film, but you have to watch every single film cut up. You're never in any of the groups laughing, because half the time you don't get to go to meetings because you're doing something with rehab or seeing a doctor here, doing that here. So then you're out of the loop with that. Guys will even forget you sometimes, like in the group message or texting you, especially when you're like the 6-year senior. And so, yeah, it's really sad a lot of the times. I even with a couple of guys would be like, oh yeah, you're joining the outcast group once you're injured. Like, yeah, you're part of the outcast. You're on the team, but you're not on the team. And it is what it is. You don't get to travel to every game. You don't get to, especially with COVID, you don't get to travel to every game and do all that. And so it is very depressing. But when you do get the opportunity to come back, it's such a relief. And so it's like, if you give up in that moment of sadness and pain, that could be your last memory of football. And now that I'm back, I wake up every day and I walk in and, oh, CK, what's up, CK? Like, just walking throughout, and it's just like, oh, like, I'm back. Like, these are my guys again. And so they welcome you back in, just like how a freshman would come back in. But it's even more because they all know you and remember you. And then you start making plays again, and you're like, oh yeah, this is CK. Like, oh yeah, he does do this. Like, I remember watching him back when I was in high school. Now he's still here. Now I get to do it with him. Like, yeah, I hear all types of stuff. And so I think it's just, if you give up in that moment, you're missing out on that opportunity that you have coming up. And so I would agree with that. We called ourselves like outcasts. Like, we were always together too. Like, even on the weekends, we'd hang out with each other just because you grew that bond. They shared that experience with you. And so you really leaned on each other. And so, like, Jordan Kelly, Kenneth Mann was hurt at the same time. Trey Norwood, even on the back end, John Michael. There were so many of us that were hurt, and we already had known each other. We had played together, and so we really leaned on each other a lot of the time. And then this second time when I tore my ACL, I was pretty much alone a lot of it. Justin Harrington was there with me, and so we got a lot closer for sure. But I actually got a dog this time. So that took my mind off of it a lot. I got a little Australian Shepherd, and yeah, so I added to my little family. And I was living alone the second time, and so I was like, yeah, I got to do something. I don't even have a roommate here, so I got to have somebody. So then I went and got a dog. And then the second part of your question, who was checking on me? It was, I now live with Jordan Kelly, and so he was checking on me every day. We've gotten really close. It's funny, everybody thinks we're actually related because we're both Kelly, but his is spelled different. And he checked on me every day. Of course, my family, my girlfriend, but he was probably the one that was always on me. Patrick Fields, and then just my linebacker room, Deshaun White and Brian Mead. Those guys I've been really close with. Brian came in with me, and he lives down the street, so I mean we're all in that tight knit group as well. And so yeah, those guys I'll always thank them for the rest of my life, just because they were there, especially when I was living alone and going through it, and they came and even hung out with the dog and helped me out with the dog if I needed it. And so yeah, those would be the guys for sure.
For more information, you can visit tulsaworld.com.